Hello and welcome to Views on News. I'm your host Rafa Iqbal, and in today's show we'll be discussing the Belarusian president's visit to Pakistan. Of course, we know that the Belarusian president Alexander Lukashenko has arrived in Islamabad on a three-day official visit. He was accorded a very warm welcome by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, who received the Belarusian president himself, and of course a very warm welcome and a state protocol was granted to him. A 21-gun salute was presented to the Belarusian president, and of course we know that this visit by the Belarusian president is going to take the relationship between Pakistan and Belarus to newer heights. Of course, we know it was already a very fruitful bilateral relation, but with this visit, we know several agreements and MOUs are also expected to be signed, and of course, enhanced cooperation in different domains is also expected. This visit reflects the growing partnership of Pakistan and Belarus, of course, and between both the countries. We see that there's cooperation going on in different domains, and of course, this cooperation is now to be expanded further. A meeting was held earlier between the Deputy Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar and the Foreign Minister of Belarus, Maxim Rezhenkov, in which they discussed issues of bilateral interest, and of course they also discussed the agenda in which talks will be held between the President of Belarus and the Prime Minister of Pakistan, and of course the issues which are being faced by the world community, by regional stakeholders, they were also discussed, and issues of global phenomena such as the issue of climate change. There's two conflicts going on, one in the Middle East and the other in Ukraine. That will also be the highlight of the discussions that will be held between both the sides. We'll be deliberating on all the different aspects and of course the great potential that this visit holds for both the countries and how both the countries can capitalize on this potential and of course increase and enhance the cooperation between the two sides. On Skype we have been joined by former Ambassador G.R Baloch. Along with that, we have been joined by Faad Waheed, who is the Senior Vice President, Islamabad Chamber of Commerce and Industries. I'd like to thank you all for your time and being part of the conversation. I'll start off from Mr. G.R Baloch. Sir, as Pakistan's success on the diplomatic front, we're seeing recently it started off from the United Nations General Assembly speech by the Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, which was the most viewed speech by any leader. We saw the successful hosting of the SCO in Islamabad, and now we're seeing these bilateral visits. How would you comment on the success of Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's government with regards to the diplomatic front?
Yeah, I think first of all,
Ambassador, I think you'll have to unmute yourself. We're having trouble hearing your voice.
hear me now. Can you hear me?
Well, we'll try reconnecting with Ambassador G.R Baloch. Till then, we'll move towards Faad Waheed, who is the Vice President, Islamabad Chamber of Commerce and Industries. So I was talking about Pakistan's success on the diplomatic front. Of course, we saw that the speech made by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif at the United Nations General Assembly, one of the most viewed speech. Of course, the successful hosting of the SCO in Islamabad, and now we're seeing these bilateral visits coming into the country. How do you comment on the success by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's government, the success of Pakistan on its diplomatic front?
Thank you very much, Rafi, for having me on the show. And I think it's time that Pakistanis understand how much the government of Pakistan is doing for them. To understand this better, I was at the meetings today. I was at the business forum between Pakistan and Belarus today. And I think under the leadership of the Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, Mr. Jam Kamal, the Minister of Commerce, has done a wonderful job. From the arrangements to everything. And the most important thing that I saw was it wasn't just on paper and it wasn't just talks. It was about 43 high business delegation profile that visited Islamabad today at the Marriott Hotel. And to be very honest and very frank, you know, it showed a very positive image of Pakistan. If you carry the last 7 months of Pakistan, a lot has been done. The visit of Saudi delegations along their ministers, the visit of Malaysian Prime Minister having direct contact with our people, now the SCO summit, the recent SCO summit, and now the Belarus invitation. So there's always, you know, someone working in the background of this. If I recall it rightly, there was a month and a half ago, the Minister of Trade from Belarus came to Islamabad and he was searching for all the right businessmen. And the Ministry of Commerce, Jam Kamal Sahab, was spearheading this event. So this comes very fruitful after 1.5 months of working. There was about 7 MOUs that were signed today. There was lots of government-to-government talks, and the best part about today was when the Minister of Commerce went on stage and told everyone that the government has done their part, and now it's over to the business-to-business people, so all the private sectors can engage. The Federation of Chambers of Commerce was involved, the Islamabad Chamber was involved, Rawalpindi Chamber was involved. But unfortunately, we have some political problems, some infrastructure issues that is related to this specific party that does not, like Pakistan being on the board. But nevertheless, the headline of the show and all this event was Pakistan is ready for business. Pakistan is open for business. It has shown a very positive side to the world that Pakistan is not just excelling in their contracts and not just meeting people. We are actually materializing those agreements and MOUs. So it was a great show for Pakistan today. And tomorrow again, this entire delegation is also meeting 158 new businessmen that they haven't seen.
Definitely, Faad Waheed, that's a very important point that we raised in your conversation. Of course, this politics of agitation that you mentioned by one particular party, and of course, those elements we know they have been spreading, of course, and trying to hurt the national economy with their politics of agitation and hatred. We know that there was a news report, of course, that said that the Pakistan is sustaining very big losses on a daily basis as a result of these protests. You being the senior vice president of the Islamabad Chamber of Commerce and Industry, how do you comment on this politics of agitation, and of course how it needs to be shunned? Because of course, even with this politics and of agitation and hatred and their protest calls and their demonstrations, we see that the international partners, foreign direct investment still continues to pour into the country. Isn't it a testament of confidence in the government's policies?
Well, Rafi, it's very important to understand, this specific party, if I may talk about it, they have, these plans and these underlying agendas that they are achieving through, threatening all these positive activities in Pakistan. And, as the former senior vice president, I have always been vocal about this. And this is not the way that you are going to, bring in a protest and sit in Islamabad, sabotage the entire country in process and sit in and, sabotage the economy of Pakistan. Every political party does have the right to do their peaceful protest, but they don't have any right to sabotage the life of a normal Pakistani in Islamabad specifically, if I talk about. People of Islamabad are facing this pain, and now just not Islamabad, the entire country, Pakistan is facing this problem through this party that, on a specific date when there's something big going on for Pakistan, when there's happy news coming, the global and Pakistan going global in business, they come out. But it has to be dealt with iron hands. I think it's a hard word, but that's how I think they're going to understand it, because Pakistan is not a joke. We are an economy of 250 million people. We need to earn our bread and butter from this. We have to understand not everyone in Pakistan is going to sit home during these days. People are going to go homeless. People are going to go hungry, sleep. So it's going to be a nightmare for those. And I think this party needs to understand that the crisis we've been through in the past 3 years, it's really a time when we need to sit down and actually think about the economy. They actually don't believe in losing. So, there's a sore loser position that they always take. So I have a very strong and vocal view that we don't support this in businesses. We don't support this kind of ideology. We only support the Pakistan, prosperous Pakistan, that where we can do business, where we are open for business, where we are open for tourism, where we're open for other countries to visit us, and not just security vans and, having protocols all the way up, but we want this Pakistan to be free and fair movement for local Pakistanis as well, not just foreigners. So I condemn this act of this specific PTI party. They shouldn't be doing this to Pakistan, at least.
Well, of course, saner voices should prevail within the party, and of course, we hope that it is taken cognizance of that the people of Pakistan, the people of Islamabad, they deserve to get the opportunities for progress and prosperity, and this politics of agitation and chaos should be shunned at all costs. Faad Waheed, Senior Vice President of the Islamabad Chamber of Commerce and Industry, thank you for your valuable insights. Of course, I'll move towards Ambassador G.R Baloch now. Considering, sir, as I mentioned earlier as well, how do you comment on the significance of this visit by the Belarusian president? Of course, as all the experts are saying, and as it is visible itself, this visit is going to take the relationship between Pakistan and Belarus to newer heights. What would you say about that?
Rafi, thank you for this opportunity to put in my 2 cents to the ongoing diplomatic success, one after the other, that one has seen for this government. There was a time before that we were looking forward for somebody to come and visit us, and now you see there was SEO conference. Before that, there were several other high-level visits from different countries. Saudi delegation coming in. Now we have this delegation and the president, a very high-powered delegation, and the president of Belarus come to Pakistan. And it has, in my view, 3 dimensions. One is the bilateral, the regional, and geopolitical global as well. Global, geopolitical, and geoeconomic. So on the bilateral level, I think Belarus and Pakistan have been since 1994, we established our diplomatic relations. We have had good interaction. There have been sporadic delegations coming from Pakistan, going from Pakistan to Belarus, but the interaction wasn't that intense. So I'm so happy to see that this visit is taking place, and the way the delegation is representing almost all the vital ministries of our guests, Ministry of Energy, to natural resources, to infrastructure, to justice, military and industrial committee. So that means it will be a very diverse and multifaceted cooperation, that the roadmap that seems to be in front of the 2 delegations on which they'll be working. And I'm pretty sure that now, since this government, especially Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, who really is a man of action and who wants to see things implemented, so not only that these MOUs have been signed, I think 8 of them today I was just hearing, but there will be a concrete roadmap for each sector in which the 2 countries should work. And the most interesting thing, which I think our guest before me also said, that 43 strong members of the private sector will come. And I think indeed that's what it is required, that Pakistan government and the Belarus government should become just enablers. Let the private sector really utilize the potential of the 2 countries. Now, this much for this. There is a very important geo-economic and strategic aspect of Pakistan-Belarus relations. And there is a kind of similarity between Pakistan and Belarus. This way, that Belarus is at the juncture of a staging point for Eastern Europe, and a gateway actually to Eastern Europe and Eurasian region. And Pakistan is a link for Central Asia, South Asia, and West Asia. So these 2 important features, common features, which are like God-given, that we are located the 2 countries. So I'm pretty sure that it's not only that this trade economic cooperation will not confine only to Pakistan and Belarus, but the 2 private sectors as well as the government, especially the private sector, should kind of utilize this strategic location of the 2 countries, and they should try and use this staging position of the 2 countries. That is, Pakistani businessmen using the location of Belarus to penetrate the East European markets as well as Eurasian markets. Likewise, Belarusian.
Right, Ambassador Baloch, as you're highlighting a very important point, of course, and we know that with the delegation of the Belarusian president, there's a lot of members of the Belarusian chambers of commerce as well. And of course, there's going to be members of the Pakistani Chamber of Commerce. How do you think, of course, with these MOUs signed, and you also mentioned the Shehbaz speed we know, and it is quite famous in Pakistan, How do you think these MOUs can be further materialized and capitalized on, and of course expedited and kept in line with the Shiva speed that is quite famous in Pakistan?
I think what they need to do is to have a follow-up. There could be private sector delegations, sector-wise, or a composite delegation going from Pakistan this time and go and really, I would tend to think, and think somewhere else, I was saying that I really want to see joint ventures between the two private sectors. That they will cover, they could not only cover the markets of the respective countries, but they should become global players, regional players. Why not? Belarusian joint ventures with Pakistani companies can play their role in South Asia, that is Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, or West Asia, that is Gulf countries, Iran, Saudi Arabia, all these regions. So I think there is a huge scope for collaboration and cooperation between the two countries. And also that we must not forget that Belarus has a very, very advanced industrial sector, and agriculture is their mainstay. And same is the case with Pakistan, that now, not now, but since we are an agrarian society basically, and our economy, one of the important pillars of our economy is agriculture. And now with the Green Pakistan initiative, I think the government of Pakistan has prioritized mechanization and modern agriculture. So I think we can collaborate and learn a lot from the successful model of Belarus, and let it be collaboration and cooperation among the private sector of the two countries between in the agriculture sector, which can include mechanization of agriculture, new seeds, new fertilizers, new agriculture practices, and most importantly, new technologies for optimum use of water, which is getting so scarce in the world all over, but in Pakistan in particular.
Of course, that's a very important point that you raised, Ambassador Baloch. I'd also like to include Dr. Vaqar Ahmed in the conversation and include his views with regards to the Belarusian president's visit to Pakistan and, of course, the opportunities it holds for both the countries. Dr. Vaqar, thank you for being part of the conversation. As we were talking about the avenues for trade and avenues for cooperation, we know the Belarusian tractors, they're very famous in Pakistan, and of course, they have played a very big role in promoting Pakistan's agriculture sector. And of course, we know Pakistan is also an agrarian economy, and now we know that the SIFC is also working on the agriculture, trying to incorporate modern techniques, modern technology. And there's the initiatives launched, such as the Green Pakistan initiative, which aims at cultivating barren land. Dr. Vaqar, in your opinion, how do you think more cooperation could be increased in the agriculture domains with regards to tech and intelligence sharing and other ideas that you'd have in mind?
Thank you very much for having me. I think both countries are poised for deeper trade and investment ties. And I think you have very correctly mentioned that there's no room for complacency. Both need to move very fast. We must not forget that both countries have been trying to engage in deeper trade ties since 2015. There's already a joint commission on bilateral trade and economic cooperation. And I must confess that the kind of attention that we should have given to the various meetings, proceedings of this commission, that hasn't been given. But this current high-level visit of the head of state of Belarus is certainly a manifestation that they would certainly like to push this work to move forward. And while, of course, the current trade volume between the two countries is only a couple of million US dollars, but the potential remains high, and particularly the intermediate goods which are required for Pakistan's industrial manufacturing, agri-tech, in which both countries should partner. Belarus also sees Pakistan as an important destination for its future needs, particularly when it comes to food security needs, and this is where Pakistan must step up.
Right, and Dr. Vaqar, as you mentioned, of course, there's a speed, there's a momentum that needs to be maintained. Do you think the SIFC could play a very crucial role in that? Because it has been tracing down and, of course, creating a better environment for all the foreign direct investment that has been pouring into the country.
Yes, indeed. I think SIFC's role will be important. As I said, the head of state level decision making is already there. It's very positive. Then, of course, you have had joint commissions meetings as well. But certainly, if there are any procedural irritants or coordination issues within both countries, then somebody has to coordinate. And on our side, that role is filled in by SIFC. Additionally, SIFC is trying to look into those non-tariff barriers that are impeding the trade potential, those complex trading procedures, customs procedures. Where is it that trade facilitation needs to be streamlined? All of this has to be looked into by SIFC in deeper detail. But this is not to say that private sector on its own should not be stepping up. We do understand that as part of course, deepening trade ties, the chambers of commerce on both sides need to come together now. There are a large number of business community members which have come from Belarus, and hopefully they'll be meeting their counterparts in Pakistan, which should pave way for organizing the future trade fairs, exhibitions, and business delegations to promote a mutual understanding and business opportunities.
Dr. Vaqar, how, because we know that the government's policies, they aim at revitalizing the national economy. We know that there's a lot of positive economic indicators that we've been seeing. The inflation rate has come down, but the most significant of that being the monetary policy rate coming down, and of course, which will give rise to increased business activity and investor activity in the country. With regards to that, there's a lot of FDI coming into the country. Do you think the SIFC could also play a role in bridging the domestic investors and entrepreneurs with those foreign investors that are investing into the country, and of course create a more inclusive and a more cordial environment for business?
I think you make a very important point here, and this is not just for Pakistan to consider, it's also for Belarus. In both economies, of course, growth is sort of undergoing a very fragile process. So both countries are trying to navigate their way towards higher growth levels. And certainly Pakistan's newfound macroeconomic stability, to which you have hinted, certainly sets a good foundation for future economic growth. At the same time, both countries are, of course, constrained when it comes to forex reserves, capital inflows, and herein lies a case for financial sector deepening in both countries. So, for example, if there are payment challenges faced by the private sector on both sides, we should be looking into currency swaps and deeper FTA kind of foreign trade agreement, free trade agreement kind of arrangements, which have aspects of currency swaps.
Definitely, that's a very important point that you raised. I'd also like to include Ambassador Baloch in the conversation with regards to all the different avenues for cooperation that we're talking about. Ambassador Baloch, of course, how do you comment on the role the SIFC is playing, of course, by attracting the foreign investors into the country? And, of course, do you think it could play a bigger role in bridging the domestic investors and the domestic businessmen with the foreign investors? And secondly, of course, the areas of cooperation, as Pakistan is now exploring all the avenues of untapped potential, such as its blue economy, such as IT, such as mines and minerals, areas of cooperation with Belarus. What would you say?
Yeah, I think actually we should look at the background under which SIFC was established. It's not a very normal thing to do, because there are, after all, respective ministries that they should have done it. Ministry of Commerce, Ministry of Agriculture, Industry, Export Promotion Bureau. But the very fact that the government felt the need of having some kind of a organization which coordinates and kind of a one window operation can be termed as a one window operation, or at least a step towards that, because we must not forget that Pakistan, unfortunately, in terms of cost of doing business, is among the not very conducive countries. Likewise, ease of doing business from both point of view, that is the bureaucratic red tapeism, has been a very critical point when it comes to our domestic investors or even the foreign investors. So I think SIFC essentially was meant to overcome this bottleneck in our system and expedite, because what we must not, Rafi, forget it, that the world has gone too far and fast. And given our challenges of development in view of population growth, and especially the youth, 60% of our population is youth, which needs jobs, which needs vocational training, skills to be productive citizens. For that to happen, I think what Pakistan needs to do is to have a planning where its economy can leapfrog, not on a normal pace, but literally leapfrog and come ahead and be in line, be with the world, with the countries which are of our potential, our capacity, our population. I'm talking of Malaysia, Indonesia, and several other countries. Of course, in 60s, even South Korea and China were kind of the similar, or maybe we were better off. So I think Pakistan needs to really expedite the process of industrialization, expedite the process of mechanization. But I think I like to point out to another very important sector which has not been discussed. I hope that our delegations do tackle. That is, now the new frontiers is AI, which is being used for the agriculture, which is being used for the industry, for the financial modeling, for everything. I hope that this aspect has to be seen. The emerging technologies, I think the two countries can start to work and cooperate in terms of common, like a collaborative research, training, and adoption to the new technologies. So I think that here is the key. In fact, now there is a prediction that those countries which are good at these emerging technology, including AI, would be the dominating powers. In fact, some people even are terming this as yet another revolution at par with the industrial revolution in the West. So I think Pakistan and Belarus, as well as other developing countries, must collaborate, because there is unfortunately a digital divide in the world, in the globe, and this global digital divide has to be bridged by ourselves, by cooperating among the developing countries, among the South-South cooperation. So I think this is one thing which I like to highlight. I hope that somebody is hearing me and putting up this proposal in the discussions.
Well, definitely, we do hope that the concerned quarters are listening to us, and of course they do take in consideration all the suggestions that are on the table for them. Of course, I'd like to include a comment from Dr. Vaqar Ahmed with regards to a point that was raised by Ambassador Baloch. Of course, Pakistan exports a lot of labor. How do you think cooperation could be increased with Belarus in regards to that? More human resource development, more vocational training, and of course, adding more skill to that labor. Well, we'll try reconnecting with Dr. Vaqar. Ambassador Baloch, how do you comment on that? Of course, Pakistan exports a lot of labor, but to actually capitalize on that, it needs to be skilled labor. How do you think Pakistan and Belarus can actually capitalize on that? And of course, both can benefit from this.
See, the era of unskilled labor is over. There's no point in just like doing something which is counterproductive. Now is the time of training your labor with those skills, especially the computer skills, IT skills, and value addition to their capacity, so that the return is more, and also it is sustainable. You see, the problem, what happened with Pakistan was in 80s and 90s, when we exported this unskilled labor, it was not sustainable, because those infrastructure development projects in the Middle East, which were that time was that area was going through transformation, were like 10 years, 15 years, they were done. So the labor has to find new avenues or come back home. So that needs to change, that approach to because we do have some kind of a population or a youth bulge. But I am really not, as a Pakistani, I would love to have them back in Pakistan, not to look at other markets. Yes, if there is a possibility, a honorable possibility, a possibility where they can be more productive, by all means. But there is so much to be done in Pakistan. You pick up any sector, you pick up health, you pick up education, you pick up small and medium industry, you pick up agriculture, as I said before. Our agro industry, let's how many agro technologists we have? Hardly any. How many biotechnologists we have in the country? Very few. They might be graduates otherwise, but really not. So I think there's a huge potential for our even youth to be engaged within Pakistan, but in the new technologies, in the new arenas, in the new emerging technologies. So yes, there is a possibility of collaboration between Belarus and Pakistan for training each other, say the areas in which they are strong, our people can go and get the training, and those areas where we are good at, they can come over and get the training. So it has to be a win-win situation where we kind of complement each other and don't supplement each other. Yeah.
Of course, a win-win situation. That's what both the sides are looking forward to. Doctor, we've also been joined by Dr. Usman Chohan. I'll move towards him. Of course, Dr. Usman, a very high-level visit, a very significant visit that we're seeing by the Belarusian president to Pakistan, Alexander Lukashenko, is in the country. And of course, he was accorded a very warm welcome by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif himself. We know this visit is going to take the relationship between Pakistan and Belarus to new heights, as all the analysts are saying. Of course, there were MOUs signed earlier in the day in a ceremony that was witnessed by the Commerce Minister, Jam Kamal. These MOUs focused on the pharma sector and, of course, in other sectors as well, but particularly the pharma sector and the strengthening the justice system of the country. We know there's avenues for economic cooperation as well. How do you comment on the overall spectrum of bilateral ties that will be enhanced with this visit?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for the question. I see the progress made with Belarus in a strategic context of both the SCO as well as Eastern Europe as a whole. When you look at it in terms of the SCO, naturally there was a lot of sideline meetings when we did an excellent job hosting the most recent SCO summit, and part of that engagement was with Belarus, and obviously it was highlighted that this is a very underexplored relationship. Your previous guests have correctly highlighted this, and there are very important areas of common interest in terms of agriculture, technical expertise, and keep in mind the demographic changes there, which are favorable to have further, for example, international students or commercial delegations, and all these sorts of things are entirely possible. And within the ambit of the SCO, it's good to see that it's not just the 2 or 3 very large countries, but in fact engagement with all parties within this framework, interacting on the side and building bilateral ties. It's a credit to the SCO for being an alternative system within the multilateral architecture of the world. Now, this other thing is that when you look at it in terms of Eastern Europe, I think that it's been a sort of a tragedy that Pakistan has not taken as much interest in Eastern Europe as it has in Western Europe over generations. Part of that was the Iron Curtain, of course, but people don't realize here how much progress has been made in Eastern Europe as a whole. And notwithstanding the conflict in Ukraine, these countries are far more promising than Western Europe is, and even North America is. And the good thing is that we have good relations with all of the countries of Eastern Europe, whether it is Poland, whether it is Czech Republic, whether it is Russia, whether it is Ukraine and Belarus. And mind you, as Ukraine, a settlement is reached there, very likely under the new Trump administration, Ukraine will probably be an extremely promising area. Cooperation between Ukraine and Belarus will become stronger. Pakistan can profit from its positive relations with all countries. Because we don't have a skin in that game. All we want is to have good relations with all countries. And in Eastern Europe, this engagement is very positive. So we should keep in mind Belarus as part of that overall renaissance that we're likely to see in Eastern Europe, pursuant to a Trump administration's firm hand on a settlement, pushing back against the NATO expansionism. And it'll be very, very good for not just Belarus-Pakistan relations, but also Pakistan-Poland relations, Pakistan-Russia relations, and so on. Eastern Europe really is the region that has the most promise west of us going over the next 20 years.
Dr. Usman, that's a very important angle that you touched upon. Of course, we know that this visit is going to have a lot of significance for Pakistan and for Belarus as well, but do you think, in your opinion, it's going to act as a gateway for Pakistan into Eastern Europe to, of course, enhance its ties with other countries in the region as well, and, of course, to capitalize on the potential in Eastern Europe in which Pakistan could obviously provide for, such as, we know, different products relating to the agriculture, such as IT services, or even when we talk about skilled labor?
Possibly, but then you are looking at the as a CIS region as the gateway, because if you want to access EU markets more deeply, Belarus cannot be the gateway because there is still a de facto Iron Curtain at the Polish-Belarus border. So if you go past Białystok, it is actually hard to move things. So that's why you would be looking at the CIS. But if you're looking at the CIS, why wouldn't you begin with Tajikistan and move northward? So there isn't necessarily a need for gateways specifically. Belarus in itself is a very promising country because it is a comparatively explored market for us, with a strong education system, a strong soil, the Black Sea soil type thing. The agricultural and climatic factors are very, very strong there. And that's also true for Ukraine and Poland and Latvia and Russia. So we shouldn't think in terms of like gateways to breach into a larger market, but in fact, just bilaterally, it is very, very significant. And it's only part of our discovery process, 70 years in the making, that there are all these other markets beyond our traditional export destinations of the United States and Western Europe.
Right, and of course, Dr. Usman, how do you comment on, of course, the cooperation in, of course, strengthening the justice system, and as we know that climate change being one of the global phenomena, Pakistan being one of the biggest victims of it, even though it is the least contributor to carbon emissions. This bilateral visit could also, of course, help in collaboration in, of course, advocating for climate change.
Absolutely. What you find is that there are countries that are neither in the developing country lobby nor in the developed country lobby, but somewhere in the middle, and Belarus is one of those. And so they're sympathetic to the plight of developing countries in terms of being the disproportionate victims. So it's always good to get such countries on board in terms of mobilization, as we saw in the COP29, where Pakistan certainly punched above its weight and brought proposals to the table and is certainly seeking climate financing. It's good to have these middle ground countries on our side because there is a very strong, entrenched, developed country lobby which wants to have emissions and wants the rest of the world to pay the price for their indulgence over the last 200 years. And I think that's coming to an end, and I think bringing more and more countries on board where Pakistan is playing an active role in the betterment of humanity. You know, we do want a sustainable future that is ecologically logical and ecologically pragmatic for future generations. So bringing countries like Belarus and other countries within the SCO framework on the same page in terms of climate change is a very good thing.
Definitely. I'd like to add concluding remarks from Ambassador G.R Baloch, of course, as we talk about global issues such as climate change and, of course, when we talk about domestic collaboration, such as in the field of strengthening the justice system. How do you think that can happen?
See, we can't at this point go to any specific fields. They could be, I think the specialists should do it, but my comments would be confined to the changing scenario in the world. As we know that the world is moving towards a multi kind of polar world global order. That being the case, I think Pakistan's reach out to various countries in the world, including Belarus and in Eastern Europe, which has not received our attention in the past several decades, is in sync with the changing global scenario. And also that I've always been advocating, and I think Pakistan is moving towards that. That is what is being termed as the multipolarity or the multi-alliances that we must have it. So I think by opening up to Belarus, which is very close to Russia, and of course is an important country in Eastern Europe, so I think that reflects Pakistan's approach to new dynamics, new global dynamics of having multi-alliance.
And do you think people-to-people exchanges and more institutional exchanges could, of course, enhance those efforts?
Oh, definitely. I think it's ultimately it is the citizen which has to be at the center of all the decision making in the two countries, whether it is commerce, it's a trade, it is global warming, or it is education. So Pakistan has prioritized its citizen in terms of its overall development strategy. And I'm sure Belarus has the same priority for its people, as it still follows a more socialist form of government, which actually has more emphasis on the social welfare of the people. So I think definitely people-to-people exchanges, people-to-people understanding definitely helps countries to reach those collaborative forms of forms in different fields. Yep, it does. Yeah.
And lastly, Ambassador Baloch, of course, I'd like to take this moment. Of course, there was a propaganda that was recently being spread against Pakistan, that Pakistan stands diplomatic isolated. We know that Pakistan has been, of course, it hosted the SAO, and the quarters that was spreading this kind of a propaganda, they had to come into the country to attend that very event. We're seeing these bilateral visits in Pakistan. We see these delegations coming to Pakistan and these high-level delegations. Of course, how would you answer to that propaganda?
Yeah, exactly. In fact, I made this point that when I said the regional aspect, but then another question came up. So the regional aspect is that there's a very clear message to those quarters that Pakistan is fully engaged with not only to various regions of the world, including East Europe. So I think it's very, very clear message to those illusions that they had. There was all fragmentation of their imagination that Pakistan one day will be isolated. So yes, it has. They have been proven wrong, and I think such visits are clear evidence to prove. And we don't have to prove it, and we don't have to say it. The visit itself, the results, the media, the delegation says it all.
Well, definitely, of course, this visit and all the visits that have been happening and all the developments that have been happening on Pakistan's diplomatic front, they do pop the bubble of that imagination that certain quarters have been living in regarding Pakistan's isolation. But we know that the world community is engaging with Pakistan on a very motivated level. Pakistan being a land of opportunities as we know it, a lot to offer to the world and a lot for the world to, of course, make profits from. It's a win-win situation for everyone. I'd like to thank all of our panelists. G.R Baloch, former ambassador, Dr. Vaqar Ahmed, who is the joint executive director of SDPI. We were joined by Faad Waheed, senior vice president of the ICCI, and we were also joined by Dr. Usman Chohan, who's an economist. Thank you all for your time and being part of the conversation. Of course, we'll wrap our views on news. That was all we had for today with regards to Belarusian president's visit to Pakistan, as he was welcomed by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, and we'll keep updating you with all the developments that are to follow with regards to the Belarusian president's visit to Pakistan. See you same time tomorrow. Till then, take care.